Hey everyone, hope you're having a great week. I'm working on some more detailed content to come in the next few weeks, but in the meanwhile, here's another hero spotlight. By popular demand, let's cover some of the details around Mala today. In my opinion, she is one of the most underused heroes in the game, given the kind of upside she has, and I honestly don't understand why more people don't use her. I very rarely come across her in Castle, and it just, again, it absolutely blows my mind that more people don't take advantage of what she's able to provide. In many cases, she's very, very good on her own, but she's even better if you don't have access to a high-level dare just because of her pure damage output. Hopefully this video will help you learn a bit about her and even inspire you to give Mala a go and see the damage that you can do with her. Let's start with some of the basics. To start off with something really basic, she's a fire element hero and has ridiculous damage output. I would suggest skilling her at, say, 1-3-3-1 at the very least. You really want her resistance maxed out to give an extra 100 protection, which is about 20% buff. And that will help you overcome one of her weak points around being a slow starter, just because it'll be harder to crowd control her since she can break out faster. Rapid Recharge will truly be your MVP with Mala. Who doesn't want a free 30% charge upon taking down an enemy? Especially since it can be done through her ridiculously powerful hero power, which at max level does 314 damage per second for 3 seconds, giving you a base damage of 942 to an unlimited number of enemies that are within her fire stream's range. Many heroes, as you'll find, have a cap on the number of enemies that they can hit within a certain range. Also, each hit can crit, creating even more potential damage. All to say you're pretty much guaranteed that 30% charge whenever letting that hero power loose on an opponent in Castle. In terms of how I would set her up with gear, I personally like a more balanced approach to damage, crit rate, and crowd control. Here, you can see one way in which I like to gear her. There have been many discussions and debates and arguments about how best to do this, but this is my personal favorite for Castle and even waves during events. The damage pieces speak for themselves. The Disc with Trap, coupled with Darkfire Amulet, that gives vulnerability on crit. They stack for an extra 2.25 times multiplier on any damage you do. The way I've added crowd control to the mix for a hero that doesn't naturally do it is with Sigil. As you'll find playing more and more Castle, this is probably one of your best items, period, full stop. Because her hero power has such crazy damage, crits often occur due to the multiple hits it does, and given the, I'd say, okay area of effect, you'll either take down most enemy heroes or at the very least get one stun off per hero for any time you use the hero power in a damage area. I'll go into a bit more detail around gear configurations in another video, since that's a bit of a longer discussion. I know I've talked a lot about Mala as a hero, but here's just a bit more to give more context on why I think she should be far more used than she is today. 1, she has relatively high base protection. 548 is pretty good already, but then she gets a free 100 bonus from her second skill. That just allows her to break out of crowd control pretty quickly. Second is damage, and more massive damage. Needless to say, whether it is her fast attack speed at 1.5 seconds, amongst the fastest in the game, or her crazy strong hero power, she's a damage machine, and unlike many other heroes, her hero power can crit. I think she may be the only one with a pulsing ability that can actually do this. I might be wrong, but I can't think of any off the top of my head right now. And third, certainly not least, she has a fast charge. It's a bit slower than Salva's, but it hits an unlimited number of targets in the fire stream's area, and it does it multiple times for multiple chances to get a crit strike on it. On top of that, she gets a free 30% charge when you use it, since it's often powerful enough to take down at least one enemy to trigger that ability. And in Castle, you'll find the golems come in there, and it will basically automatically take down the golem, so there you get your free charge right off the bat. Now you know a bit more about Mala and why I like her so much. Here's how I tend to use her. I can't say this enough, she does a ton of damage. The goal here is to just mow down your enemies with her hero power, and anything that's able to withstand that will likely get stunned from Sigil and ultimately slowed down at the end of the day. As mentioned, it is a damage heavy setup in a straight line and can crit. That said, it's most effective on enemies when they are grouped up, since it is a pretty narrow stream or radius for that damage area. The idea is to use that heavy damage to cycle and spam Firestream as much as possible to just constantly keep that damage rolling, keep taking opponents down, keep forcing respawns. Okay, let's talk lineups. I suspect not fully understanding how she fits into a lineup, since she can be a bit of a tricky one to get in there, is one of the main reasons people don't use her more often amongst some others. I would strongly suggest using her with a Seppi. When in doubt, run a Seppi with Disc and all will be well. Jokes aside, running her with a Seppi is absolutely terrifying. You can get plus 30% charge from taking down an opponent, and another 30% charge if you crit with Disc, since it will trigger the Trapped Leader skill of a Seppi. So that's basically 60% free charge on a hero power that also charges pretty quickly. You'll be spamming that Firestream all day long. If you are not using a Seppi, I would suggest using a crowd control hero to augment and slow opponents down, since Mala takes a bit of time to get going as well. I would suggest Ualth for this, not because of the melting ability, since that honestly doesn't make much of a difference compared to overall damage at the end of the day, but more for the fact that he is a very fast starter due to his charge time, and that will help overcome Mala's slow start issue. Aelion is better if you're expecting games to go a bit longer, which is not a bad thing with Mala, because in many cases she does quite well in late game, and the games generally go a little bit longer, just because it is a more damage-focused lineup. I would add a hero that can take down a tower and or castle pretty easily for efficiency's sake. The idea is to take down an opponent's heroes and use that to push forward while getting the towers in the process. The idea here is also you can bring her into range to take the castle down, although her range is a bit limited. So again, it's just better if you've got a dedicated castle killer in your lineup. Depending on how you build her, she also may not be able to take down a castle in one shot, just because obviously castles are not a building that you can have a crit against. I would also add one jump hero, particularly a jumping tank, and find that will be very helpful. The idea with Mala is to take down your opponent's heroes, push up the field, wash, rinse, and repeat. Having a tank to anchor and stop your opponent's heroes at their castle upon respawn will make things go much smoother. It also gives you the option to isolate their front line for you to pick apart as you go. For example, it leaves jumpers exposed if they're trying to hold you back by jumping back into the fight from as far back as they possibly can to go, say, to half to stall you. The next one that I'm recommending is, well, not recommended, but it is a ton of fun. One other damage hero to maximize pure DPS, so you've got 2 damage heroes, you've got 2 support heroes to, again, help maximize your damage heroes. I like Klux and Vrim for this, and of course your trusty Asepi. The effects will stack, but you're going to have a lot of trouble gaining and holding position, having no jumper, no neuro, and no crowd control. But then again, it is a ton of fun. Okay, I've thrown a lot of information at you, but here's a short summary of why I think Mala can really shine in Castle and some areas where unfortunately she's not quite as good. To start off, I've said this many times, she is amongst the top 2 or 3 heroes in the game for pure DPS, and her hero power hits very hard and has decent area of effect. She has magic damage, which is quite important given that most of the heroes in Castle that are, again, more meta, if you will, tend to have lower protection, such as Otho, Salva, etc. And for that reason, she will really strengthen your backline and allow you to take down heroes that get behind you, a problem that many of us deal with on a regular basis. Next, she has fast charge. Potentially 60% free charge per fire stream is absolutely amazing. And last, but certainly not least, she has reasonably high base protection. Plus, she gets a free 100 on top of that from her hero skill. And that will just allow her to break out of crowd control a little bit faster. In terms of where she struggles, she's a glass cannon. She is super squishy, low HP, and almost no base defense. She will often be the unfortunate target of Salva or Dare and get taken down pretty easily. Another challenge is she's a slow starter. You need to be aware of crowd control being used to slow her down, with stun being particularly problematic since her high protection won't do anything against that. And then similar to the comments about her being a slow starter, she is very much momentum driven, where she needs to be taking down enemies to get that charge, and then to slow your opponents down since they have to respawn, so on and so forth. If you fall behind too much too early, it might be just too difficult to come back from it. Also, she works best with your enemies nicely grouped up together due to her area of effect being somewhat limited. If they're spread out, she still does fantastic damage, but you just aren't getting the full effectiveness out of her in those exchanges. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Discord or leave a comment here. Have a great rest of your day and have fun storming the castle.